Hello guys, so this is my second video for my channel that aims to improve your grades or maybe help you study for part 66. It's mainly for part 66 if you guys are taking aircraft maintenance engineering. Alright, so under EASA or any other part 66, I think it's going to be mainly similar, so I'm focusing on creating review topics for those modules. So what I'm going to discuss now is module 3 chapter 1, which discusses about electron theory. Alright, remember that this is not a full course for the module, it's just a topic review, so you'll have to rely on your notes as well for the other parts that I might be missing. But here I'm going to highlight the main topics as listed in the part 66 syllabus. So without further ado, we're going to start the short review. So the atom. So let's start with a little bit of chemistry. The atom is the smallest unit of matter that makes a chemical element. Okay, so within the atom we have the nucleus. That's the center of the atom. That's the heavy part of the atom. It contains the neutron, which has no charge at all, and the proton, which has a positive charge. Almost all elements in our table of elements will have neutron and proton in the nucleus, except perhaps the hydrogen atom, which only has a proton. The number of proton and neutron determines the mass of an atom. So basically, if you know how many protons are there and neutrons are there, you add them together and that will determine your atomic mass. So on the other hand, I did not put it here. The number of proton determines the atomic number. Okay, so don't get confused between the two. It follows because the nucleus is at the center, and in the nucleus we have neutron and proton that will determine the mass of your atom. And around it, surrounding, encircling the nucleus, this is just a simplified illustration, is the negatively charged particle orbiting the atom. It's called the electron. Okay, so electron is on the outside, the nucleus is inside, encapsulating or containing neutron and proton. In a state of equilibrium, the atom will have no charge at all. It's called neutral. That's why we call it equilibrium. Alright, now let's focus on the charges. Atoms that loses electron. When an atom loses an electron, that's minus. Remember, electron is a negatively charged particle. It will definitely have more proton. Therefore, it's going to be positively charged. Let's see, can an atom lose a proton? Well, as for the purpose of this knowledge discussion, let's limit the answer to a no. Alright, so as to simplify things, we're not going there into the deeper discussion in physics and chemistry. So again, when an atom loses electron, it becomes positively charged. When an atom, on the other hand, gains electron, and have more electron than proton, it will be negatively charged. Similar charges, if you have two atoms with an excess of, both of them have an excess of positive charges, then they will repel. That means they will push away from each other. But if one has a negative charge and the other has a positive charge, they will attract, move closer to each other. The phenomenon where an atom loses an electron is called ionization, and charged atom or electrically charged atom are called ions. Right? So again, I said it's just a review. Conductivity. It is determined by the arrangement of electrons, specifically on the valence shell. The conductivity of the material is actually determined by the mobility of the electrons within the matter. Okay, we'll discuss that a little bit later. Valence electrons are the electrons at the outermost of an atom. Not all electrons in an atom can be transferred from one atom to another during conduction. It's only those at the valence shell, the outermost shell, which are called the valence electron. So here are the factors affecting forces of attraction between charged particles. So if the difference of degree of charges, let's say for example, the positive charge becomes more positive, that means it loses more electron, and the other, the negative charged particle, gains more electron. Okay? So there will be a higher degree of attraction between the two. I'm not going to discuss the formula here, but let's just take it as it is for now. If the distance between the particles is greater, okay, attraction becomes less. So the closer the particles are, if they have different charges, opposite charges, then the attraction will become more. Again, if the distance is closer and they have different charges, attraction will become greater. Now, if you pull them apart, it will also affect the attraction between the two charged particles. Now, here are the factors that affects the repulsion. This is now the opposite. Similar charges always repel. If the distance between the particle is greater, repulsion becomes less. So let's look at the figure. On the left-hand side, we have positive charged particles. So immediately, as we have discussed earlier, we know that they will separate or push apart. Okay, they will repel each other. So if the distance between the particles is greater, repulsion force becomes less. So that distance is in general consistent with the one that we've discussed from the previous slide. Now let's look at the right hand side of the picture. So it's the same, except that we're using negatively charged particle, but since both of them has negative charge, so they will repel. And if the distance between these two particles as well becomes greater, then the repulsion force will become less. You decrease the distance, then the repulsion force will become more or greater. Now let's move on. Molecules, that's another term that you should remember. I think if you have taken module 2, part 66 module 2, which is physics, You may be well aware of this topics already. The molecule is the smallest unit of a substance where the physical and chemical properties are maintained. So unlike the atom, that's already that very small chemical unit of a substance or even of a molecule itself. Now the molecule, it's the substance, still the substance, but at its smallest possible existence, where its chemical properties are and physical properties are still the same. So let's take a look. As an example, the water molecule. Excuse me. The water molecule shown in here contains 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. So we have 2 different atoms in the water molecule, namely the hydrogen and the oxygen. Therefore, this is called a compound. Okay, next one. Shown on the right hand side, I did not show you one atom of gold. I'm showing you a gold crystal structure, but the simplest molecule is composed of only gold. Okay, the gold atom. It is now called an element because it exists only as far as this picture is concerned, it can exist only as a gold element. Okay, gold molecule is also the gold element, which is composed of one atom, which is gold. So if it's composed of only one kind or one type of atom, the molecule is called an element. Conductors. Matter with high mobility of electrons, where electrons can move freely within the atomic structure. So in this case, remember earlier we've discussed that electrons are encircling your nucleus. Now for conductors, this arrangement of electrons may be loose such that these electrons at the valence shell can travel from one atom to another. This is specifically true in conducting materials called conductors. So examples of which are mainly metallic materials like gold, silver, and copper. Others may be aluminum, steel, and so on. Now we have the insulators. Matter with electrons that are tightly connected into the atom, preventing them from breaking away. So for insulators, the electrons are bound in the atoms such that they cannot be shared or travel from one atom to another. So examples of which are ceramics, plastics, and rubber. So it prevents it from flowing from one atom to another. That's why they're called insulators. It prevents electrical flow. Now we have the material that is in the middle of being a conductor and an insulator. This is called the semiconductor. These are naturally non-conductors but may increase conductivity through a process called doping. Okay, so doping is a process where a semiconductor material like silicon or germanium, okay, they will introduce during manufacturing an impurity added into the substance to increase the electron mobility. Okay, we're not going to discuss the full process itself, but remember that term, it's called doping. So after doping a semiconductor material, since it is aimed to increase electron mobility, what do you expect to happen? Of course, it will behave like a conductor in this case. That's why we call it semiconductor. So that's the end of our review session. Again, you can use this video if you're preparing for a Part 66 Module 3 exam. I've covered Chapter 1 of that module, and hopefully I'm going to finish probably all the modules for this, all the chapters for this module later on. If not, I'm going to create some example questions that you can try and evaluate the level of the study that you've already done. So for now, that's it, and good luck, and until the next time.